This is the Provoked Prawn, and this is a video to compare two similarly priced wireless gaming mice with visual appeal, aesthetic goodness, ergonomic fun, and some interesting RGB lighting. This is the Roccat Kone Pro Air, seen there in white, versus the SteelSeries Aerox 3 wireless. These are two mice which are roughly the same price and ever so slightly different in specs, but also have some similar features. For example, they're both wireless and Bluetooth. They both offer quite a lot of battery life, and they're both fun to use in my humble opinion. This is a video to talk to you about both these mice and show off the features and differences between them, and I've unboxed and reviewed them both separately, and I'll link to those videos in the description so you can check them out, find out more, see details about the software and all the other goodness too. But here I'm going to show you the differences between them and what I like and don't like about them. So the Kone Pro Air is quite a large mouse with a wireless dongle, Bluetooth connectivity, large PTFE feet, and interesting RGB lighting which appears on just the left and right buttons. Whereas the SteelSeries Aerox 3 is interesting because it is lighter than the Kone Pro Air. It comes in at just 66 grams compared to the 75 on the Kone Pro Air. It also has that classic honeycomb design with loads of holes drilled into the top of it to give it that lightweight finish, but it's also designed to be resistant to dust and moisture ingress, with an IP rating that should see it stand up to the test of time, so you don't have to worry about the holes. They're not going to be a problem. In the box on this one, you'll note there's a wireless dongle with a USB-C connection, which is fairly interesting and unusual. That dongle obviously requires a USB-C port on your PC, which not everybody will have. But don't worry, because there is an adapter included in the box, so you still can use it even if you don't have that port. I did use both, because I do have USB-C, and I did use the adapter as well during testing. And I'm happy to report that whichever one you use gives you a wonderful connection. Now, this is a 2.4 gigahertz wireless connection, and you can get up to 80 hours of battery life that way. You'll also note USB-C cable for charging purposes, so you can plug it in and charge it with a USB-C connection to the mouse, but the other end is USB-A, so you don't need to worry if you're looking to charge it, you won't have an issue. So up to 80 hours of battery life, 2.4 gigahertz, or 200 hours with Bluetooth. Obviously, this is going to vary depending on the RGB lighting that you're using, but a nice setup for battery life. I also found the Aerox 3 to be really interesting in terms of the logic it uses around the battery life management and the saving of battery life. So the way it turns off the RGB lighting when not in use and goes into sort of semi-sleep mode to save battery. So I actually didn't need charging all that often, which was great. The Roccat Kone Pro Air, on the other hand, has 2.4 gigahertz and up to 100 hours of battery life. But the bonus for this mouse is it also has fast charging capability, so you can plug it in for a very short period of time and get a lot of extra juice without much fuss. Now, what you will notice about the difference between these two mice, other than one's white and one's black, they are quite different in shape. The Roccat Kone Pro Air is certainly larger, and it sits higher off the desk and pushes up higher into your palm. It also has an interesting ergonomic design which makes it quite comfortable. Now, it is lightweight, as I said, 75 grams, so it's a bit heavier than the Aerox 3, but it does this without that honeycomb outer shell. It is still hollow though, and you can sort of tell that when you're tapping on it and holding it, and so it remains lightweight without the problems that might otherwise be presented by holes in the mouse, which is a nice finish to it. What happens is that sort of honeycomb is hidden on the underside, and that lets the RGB lighting shine through the left and right mouse buttons. Now, this has a USB-C cable as well. I found this fiddly to plug in, which I thought was odd for a USB-C connection. Plugs in at the front, but just the recess there is a bit tight and it was a bit difficult to plug in. It comes with a USB-A wireless dongle though, to give you 2.4 gigahertz wireless, so you don't need to worry about having a USB-C port on your PC, which is a bonus. So both these mice are similar, as you can see. Both have that USB-C connection, both have decent battery life, both have interesting RGB lighting, but the shape and specs of them are quite different. The Roccat Kone Pro has 50G acceleration, and it uses Roccat's owl eye optical sensors to get up to 19,000 DPI. The SteelSeries Aerox 3 only goes up to 18,000 DPI, has 400 IPS and 40 G's acceleration, and I'll leave all the specifications in the description so you can check those at your leisure and find out more. Also interesting, the Kone Pro Air has programmable buttons, obviously, but the highlight for me, I showed off in the review, is Roccat's Easy Shift software, which allows you to program one button to then activate a secondary layer of actions across the mouse so that you can have more buttons at software level than you do at hardware level, which makes this one a lot more customizable in terms of the button presses and what you're setting them to, which is really nice. On the underside, you'll note there's a profile switching button and a switch to switch between Bluetooth, wireless, and off, and also a dock for the little dongle. Now, one of the things I didn't like about this mouse is the mouse wheel. I found it a bit scratchy and uncomfortable. It is made from metal with a rubber coat on the outside. I just didn't like it. But I do like the RGB lighting. It's very unusual to see RGB lighting just at the front of the mouse and nowhere else. So it's on the left and right buttons, and it sort of glows nicely on your fingertips when you're using it as a result. You'll also see there's a gap around the buttons which lets you see on the inside, and yet those buttons are easy to actuate and give you a nice satisfying click while using them, which I found to be fantastic. One thing I will note also is that I found that I couldn't get this mouse to work with its 2.4 GHz wireless dongle in anything other than the USB 3 port. So if I plugged it into USB 2, it simply wouldn't work, which I found a bit odd. It's unusual. However, overall, I do like the size and shape of it. I found it very comfortable and easy to use. And once the firmware was updated and it was plugged in wirelessly, I enjoyed some great gaming sessions on it. It does sound quite hollow and it does sound cheap though, and I think that's a problem with lightweight mice. Generally, they do sound and feel a bit cheaper. The Aerox 3 doesn't suffer from this quite as much, but you will hear the difference in clicks between the two. I like the Aerox 3 a lot for a number of different reasons. You'll see it has a matte finish ABS plastic on here, which makes it easy to grip and hold on to. Also, easy access side buttons, a satisfying press on all the other buttons too. You'll see there's a DPI button on top that lets you switch between CPI levels that you can adjust within the SteelSeries software and set the way you want it. And it is just a nice mouse to use. It is, however, quite low profile. It sits low to the desk, so it might not be as comfortable. It depends on your personal preference. I found them both comfortable, but the Kone Pro Air is certainly nicer from an ergonomic standpoint. However, there's a lot to be said for the design of the Aerox 3 and its RGB lighting. You'll notice the underside and round the bottom and on the inside, you get to see a lot of RGB light bleed because of that honeycomb design. Gives you a lot of RGB effects and just really nice visuals out of it too. Again, on the underside of this mouse, you have the ability to switch between 2.4 GHz and Bluetooth. Obviously, 2.4 GHz on both mice gives you a lower latency connection, but Bluetooth gives you a better battery life. And it's nice to have the option to switch between these because you might like to connect it Bluetooth to a laptop, but then have it wireless on your main PC, for example. And just have the option to be able to switch between those is pretty good. Now, when it comes down to the overall conclusion about these two mice, I actually would struggle to recommend one over the other. And that's because I like them both for different reasons. And I think it's really going to be a personal preference. One of the things that I found odd about the design of the Roccat Kone Pro Air is its shell. You'll notice on the left and right hand sides there's a very small amount of textured grip down the sides there, but otherwise the shell itself is quite slippery. With the wired version of this mouse, I found it slipped around in the hand. It was quite annoying, but the wireless one was a lot more comfortable. The size of it means it is larger and it does fit more nicely. I found it easier to grip onto despite not being as matte finished and as rough textured as the Aerox 3. And so if you have a larger hand, I think that the Roccat Kone Pro Air will probably be the better choice for you. However, I also really like the Aerox 3, and I have a lot of good things to say about it, most of which center around the awesomeness of the lightweight design, the RGB lighting, the comfort, and the intelligence around the battery life. It's got one of the most intelligent battery saving systems I've seen. Sometimes frustrating when you have to move or click the mouse in order to wake it back up, but also meant that it just lasted and lasted and lasted. I didn't feel like I had to plug it in quite so much, whereas the Kone Pro Air I did. And because the Kone Pro Air is a bit of a fiddle to plug in, that was more of an annoyance than it was with the Aerox 3. All told though, these are two fantastic mice with great features, comfort, and very nice aesthetics. They're very similarly priced, so which one you choose is likely going to be down to either a choice of specs, with the Kone Pro Air having slightly better specifications, or the visual appeal and overall look and feel of them, with the Aerox 3 looking nicer, at least in my humble opinion. Thanks for watching. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful, interesting, hilarious, or otherwise. Take a look at these other videos that I think you might find interesting as well, and have a look at the description for links and other information you might find useful. Click that join button to see the benefits of being a member of my YouTube channel, and most importantly, have a great life.